How's it going, everybody? This is Live Laugh Lariat, joined by my co-host Trey'Von Ali, and we are joined by a very special guest making his return to Live Laugh Lariat. This is the part where I forget everything that I remembered at one point. The killer weight. I'm just going to stop there because my brain is not functioning. Joe Black.
What up? What up? What up? Get
I-
a
It's missing the goalpost by a mile.
yeah, it sounded like I envisioned it as I was going into it, and then it just completely lost a wing but one of the reasons we're having you on, and I just want to plug them up front, is because Newborn Wrestling is having a show on March 23rd in Knightdale, North Carolina, and one of the big matches in that is going to be yourself, O'Shea Edwards, Trey'Von Ali, and Tim, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I thought what a great time to bring you on to kind of help promote the show and also give people that are going to be there more of an insight to who you are, because while you're from North Carolina, it's been a while.
It definitely has.
Before we hop in, where can everybody find you on social media? Is there anything that you want to promote?
You can find me at Black Cloud JB on X. The same for Instagram. And then I'm Joseph Black Cloud on Facebook. Hit me up. Don't be weird. Please. Please. Don't be weird.
You have any examples on what weird behavior is?
It's wrestling, man. You'd be surprised. Pimp C call them choosies. So I'll call them that too, and I'll just leave it at that. If you know what choosing is, you'll understand what that is in the DMs. But just the random people asking for like ring worn socks or other
Okay.
weird things like that. Don't be that person. Just don't be. I'll cuss you out.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's happened to.
It's prevalent. It's widespread. I don't understand why. It makes no sense, but
Nobody's asked me for socks, but I have been persuaded for something that involves my feet via DM. So I have a small kindred with the thing that you're going through here. I guess we'll start off here. We had William Huckabee on the last episode, and he brought up some strong opinions on comic books. So I wanted to see if you agree. Batman.
that was William Huckabee gets the Donkey of the Millennium
Oh
Award
no.
for that opinion. Batman is the greatest. I don't. His power is his white privilege, like, and I think Huck is at the age where he just says things to get a reaction. I don't think he really believes these things. I can hope, and I'm saying that because he's my brother. I really hope he doesn't believe these things. But Batman's the GOAT. We can't entertain nonsense like that.
Why do you think Batman is better than Superman?
Oh, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like when I say Tupac is my favorite rapper, I acknowledge Nas is better.
Okay.
But for me, Pac is better because, I resonate more with his message. To me, the first superhero I was exposed to was Batman. First movie I ever seen was Batman. So that makes Batman the best to me. But, if Batman doesn't have preparation time, Superman. There's no competition there. But Batman is the GOAT. He has beaten Superman before. So
what is your favorite media adaptation of Batman, and then your favorite comic version of Batman?
My favorite comic version of Batman is Thomas Wayne with the guns, because I really think if Bruce adopted his father's thoughts and theories on villains, Gotham would have been a better place. Sometimes you just got to put a bullet in the Joker, and maybe he won't kill 10,000 people.
Valid.
Movie-wise, and I know this is going to surprise people, it's not Michael Keaton, it's not Val Kilmer, and it damn sure ain't George Clooney. I really think Ben Affleck was the best movie Batman. My opinion. I love Michael Keaton. That's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Affleck.
I haven't seen much of him. I kind of zoned out with the Batman versus Superman, and I tried to watch the Snyder Cut once, and I did not get very far. So I probably should revisit that whole thing, but definitely a fan of Michael Keaton. Was like my first Batman, and I recently rewatched them while high. They're a good time when you're high. So
Yeah.
Maybe not like the Dark Knight Rises might be a little scary, but the old school ones still treat you right.
Do you think that you and Huck's like dynamic works because he's the Superman guy and you're the Batman guy?
He's not even a Superman guy. He's a Hulk guy. I don't know why he's speaking on DC Comics. I wish Murder One was here because he's the super duper comic book guy. I'm into comic books, but Murder One's been reading them longer than I've been alive. But Huck is an incredible Hulk guy. That's the only hero that he has extensive knowledge of. He's not a Superman guy. He's a mark. He just whoever there's a Superman movie coming out. And I guarantee you next week, Huck is going to be like, Reed Richards is the greatest hero of Marvel continuity. Let me tell you why. Wolverine sucks. I guarantee you. I guarantee it.
I guess if we've cleared the air on Batman, and I was afraid that he was going to see this, but I've got a Batman Funko pop up there.
Amen.
But I'd say we just hop right in to take the pictures. I've got a little bit of a longer clip than I usually do, and it should be fun. Is there anything else that you want to plug or talk about before we hop into that?
Oh, let's get into it.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
I turn my camera on. I cut my fingers on the way. On the way.
Take the pictures. I've tried to go in chronological order. I'm not sure that I did in all instances, but I figured we'll just start with the first picture, which is one of the earliest pictures of your career that I could find.
Wow. CWF days. There's RTG. There's ATL, who actually is the true trainer of Timmy Lou Retton. I'm not calling it Infinite, man. I don't remember who we wrestled, but I think I was the RGL champion, which was the Rising Generation League. I think I beat Trevor Lee for that. I could be wrong. But yeah, those are fun times. This is when I moved to Goldsboro, North Carolina from Burlington, and I used to travel with RTG and ATL. And the Koski cloak, because I'm an anime mark. Man, that's crazy.
So
I still had leather shorts on too.
What was your character at that point in time?
Oh man, I think I was still trying to be low key, or I was still trying to be Davey Richards. I don't know. Back in the days, I was trying to figure out my niche. I hopped around from different gimmicks, different personas. I don't know why I'm wearing a Koski cloak. Probably because I saw it in FYE and thought it was cool.
Valid.
But yeah, I think at this point I was just vicious, and this is when I start putting on a little bit of mass. So yeah, this is when I got into my Dynamite Kid bag, I think.
Oh yeah. CWF, it kind of ended right before I got into the wrestling scene here. So I've heard a lot of stories, some crazy locker rooms. What is your favorite CWF memory?
That's a good question. I think there used to be Hardy parties, is what they were called. And at the end of the year around Christmas, they would go to Matt Hardy's house and party with them. And me being young in the business, I remember Matt Hardy came over, Grant Sawyer. He used to be the videographer for CWF. And we used to go to his house after the shows and hang out. And then one day we're down in the kitchen and Matt Hardy just walks in. And at this point, I'm still kind of in the mind state of a fan. And I grew up watching the Hardy Boys. So I remember I got a picture with him and it just blew my mind. And then I got invited to the Hardy party that year, I believe. Me and Eric Royal, I think it was our first one. And it was just cool to sit there and hang with Shane Helms and Jeff and Matt Hardy and see Shane Helms bitch out the Man Scout You know, it was good times, and I got to hear Jeff Hardy freestyle, and that dude got bars. But that's definitely got to be the top moment for me. Boo, boo this man. It looks like Cedric. I don't know what this match is either. I don't remember where this is, or because I remember we tagged and we actually won some tag team titles in Tennessee that we never defended. So I mean, we're still technically the tag team champions of whatever that promotion was. So this is when we were traveling together a lot. I know it had to have been because that's when I first got the mohawk. I recognized the tights. But yeah, me and Cedric, we've tagged, we fought against each other. My best matches are usually against Cedric or Chip Day. Yeah, man, I've never seen this picture.
Really?
Never seen this. I probably posted it. And
Yeah.
it's been, looks like it was at least 12 years ago.
I also want to point out the people in the back here just looks like you're like the most stereotypical wrestling crowd. Just those three gentlemen. They just like perfectly.
Yep.
Are you still trying to be the Loki character, or do you have anything kind of?
At this point, I still was of the PWG mode. So this might have been the CM Punk days where I was trying to be him, because I could actually do what most of my peers at the time couldn't, which was cut a promo. Imagine that. Love you, said. But I think anytime I wrestled Cedric, there was an intensity. And Jeff Rudd, who used to book for CWF, was like, why can't you just be that all the time? So coincidentally, I didn't start stepping into, I guess, what would be known as the killer weight until after I wrestled Cedric. And then after a while, it just kind of stuck, and I found out how to tap into that intensity. Yeah, I'm sure I'll see that dude soon. Hint, hint.
Mm-hmm. We'll move on to this next picture here. I brought this one up because of Nick D.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that we're all familiar with, but I haven't talked much about on this podcast. So if you could walk us through this picture and what's going on.
What up, Ronnie? Ronnie Nicole there too. I believe this is Firestar. We were a group called the Revolution, I believe, and it was a Scrapyards group. Rest in peace, Scrap. It was me, Nick D, Marcellus King, Nemesis, I want to say. And we were just, we were the evil group in Greensboro. And I want to say that might have been why I wrestled Darius Lockhart, this particular picture, in Greensboro, North Carolina. And those are fun times. Scrap saw something in me, and it took me a while because Huck was the same way. You always have people who see something in you before you do. And Scrap would always say, you're gonna make it. Just keep your nose clean, keep your head in the game, and miss that dude. But yeah, I think this is after I did some dastardly deeds to Darius to win the match, and I said something to a fan, and it made Ronnie break. And I don't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure I roasted the hell out of whoever said something to me. And that's her real life in the moment reaction of whatever I said. And I just strutted away.
Amazing. You bring up Scrapyard Dog. Anytime his name gets brought up, I always want to ask, like, what is your favorite moment? Because he made such a big impact on a lot of people. I just kind of want to help keep that memory alive, if possible. So,
I don't know about Scrap. Is he actually trained Trevor Lee? He came into CWF. He already had formal training. He just came, to sharpen his skills, so to speak. But Scrap, he was responsible for training Trevor. Scrap was responsible for Mark James too, if I recall correctly. He was like the OG's OG. And any time that I could sit in the locker room with him and we'd call a match, and Marcellus King, who was one of my OGs starting out at CWF, just the way he would sit under Scrap's learning tree, it always blew my mind because I'm thinking like, this is the guy I look to. And the Scrap is like the ultimate guy, the way he broke down the dichotomy of a match and why heels do this. And he was the first one to sit me down and be like, hey, you Joe, you a heel. And you don't need to do no dives, no cool shit. That's not what you, that's not for you, that's for the baby face. And he was the first one to make it make sense. Like, well, if you do that, it takes away from whatever the baby face is going to do. He's the first one that made it make sense to me. So, that dude was a genius. His mind for wrestling was just insane.
But yeah, like his fingerprints are all over the scene in North Carolina, and like to see Trevor go all the way to WWE, it's kind of like when you see guys like LeBron Cozone with Malachi, like you get to see them kind of live their dream a little bit. So it's kind of cool to see.
I want to say we're in Havelock, North Carolina. We're at Huck's house. No, this is Huck's house, I want to say. I don't know why we're posted up with a bottle of Bacardi, it looks like.
Yeah.
And that Bacardi's probably the reason I don't remember this night. I'm assuming it was after the show. And look, this is when Huck was in shape. That's crazy. Man, his head was smaller. Man, I think this was when I thought I was a thug back then or something, judging by what I'm wearing. Man, that's crazy. Huck actually had a hairline kind of sort of. Man, I don't know what happened to that guy. I don't know where he's at. But the guy you guys interviewed, that's not him. I don't know what happened. No, Huck is going to hear this call or the call, so just don't even call, bro. But yeah, Huck is my road dog. He was the first one that took me out on the road. He got me out of CWF. He literally said, hey, you can sit here in CWF and be like a mid-card guy if you want to, or I can take you to NWA Smoky Mountain and you can give Tennessee a shot. And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I didn't know that would create some heat in the locker room in Burlington, but I took a chance on myself, and because of Huck, I mean, without Huck, there's no Joe Black. And I hate that I have to admit that, but it's the truth. Yeah. He was the first person to believe in me. But like I said, it was that guy, not the guy you guys talked to. I think that guy died when I put him through a windshield.
No. Oh, not the windshield.
Yeah, I'm sure he talked extensively about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Summer
of they had to pick some glass out my back. That guy, man.
Speaking of that guy, let's go to this guy. That was a good transition, huh?
Yeah, that was great.
Shug D.
Yes, sir.
Shug D. Yeah, Shug was another one. I watched his stuff. Like, CWF would always have these DVDs that were available to all the trainees. As long as the plastic was off, as Jeff would say. And I watched the Shakara one, and I saw Shug. This is when he was doing Sugar Dunkerton, his basketball gimmick. And I remember like, yo, this dude was cool. This is a cool-ass dude. And this is AWE. This is Famous Pub, I want to say. And this is actually when I started dating a female worker named Kayla down in Atlanta, which is why I moved to Atlanta, that I could see in the picture as well. And Shug was not in this match. This was me and Huck versus, I think, Movie Mike and somebody else. This is before he was Movie Mike. He was still Micron back then. And Shug was he just randomly hopped up on the apron and gave me a massage and gave me a pep talk. I don't know if he was drinking. I don't know what prompted it, but this was like a very random occurrence. And it's Huck off, but everything pissed him off back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is when I started really wrestling for AWE, and still the craziest shows I've ever been a part of. So that's why moments like this can happen, because Murder One is going to laugh at it, while any other promoter would be pissed off at that. So
yeah,
love you, love Shug, man, good dude.
Another Joe Black core memory. Yeah.
That is my favorite wrestling picture. The incomparable Corey Tatum took that. This is AWE again. I got to wrestle Jimmy Jacobs. And that's another guy. I watched a lot of Ring of Honor. The first time I've ever watched an independent anything, Eric Royal introduced me to PWG, Ring of Honor. I was very, All Japan tapes and WWF and WCW. That was it. And one of the first things I remember watching Ring of Honor was seeing Jimmy Jacobs do the sliced bread. He called it the Contra Code. Me being a video game mark who grew up playing Contra, I was like, yo, the Contra Code, the Konami Code? Like, man, this dude's cool. So I remember Murder was like, hey, man, you want to wrestle Jimmy Jacobs? I was like, that's not even a question you need to ask me, OG. Hell yeah. So I'm also a Muda mark and a great Kabuki mark. So I remember this is the first time I ever did the Poison Mist. I asked Jimmy, he's like, hey, so would you mind going into the finish if I give you the poison? And he's like, hey, brother, dude, this is your place. I'm here to help you, level up. So whatever you want to do. And I mean, we fought all around that building. He stood on the stage and tossed the trash can at me, and I didn't put my hands up. So he hit me square in the head. He gave me a killer headache. And I think the finish, he went for the Contra Code, and I turned it into a tombstone onto a table.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that match was dope. I love that picture so much. I had the Red Rooster Mohawk there too.
Can you talk us through the logistics of the Mist? Like, where does because as a kid watching
Tajiri?
Tajiri, yes, as a kid watching Tajiri, I was always like, so he's just wrestling with that the whole time.
For me, I hid before the show. I hid like a little small bottle inside one of the turnbuckles, I want to say. And I think Jimmy hit me with the kendo stick, sold over to it. He made a big production, so people were focused on him. I took a little swig of it real quick. And yeah, I don't see how you would wrestle with that the whole time, but apparently Muda used to do that. So, I mean, I couldn't, but yeah. It's always, give me this move, let me sell out, come and get me, Mist.
Is it easier, do you think, to Mist or to Blade? Like, as far as like the crowd not noticing?
Definitely it's easier to do the Mist. Because the Blade is kind of, after a while, it's obvious. Yeah. You're kind of just face down. And you're just kind of like this. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're like me, it just don't work out for you for some reason. So yeah, it's easier to just roll over to the turnbuckle and just act like you're coughing because whatever.
Yeah.
Than it is to just kind of lay there halfway under the ring. Or I hate gigging. I just don't like it. I'd rather go get busted open the hard way. Balls.
I'm not allowed to blade. So I have no idea. I have no.
I used to know that pain. Better off not doing it, bro. Better off not doing it. Just don't. Don't. You're too young. Just don't do it.
Oh. But yeah, this picture is amazing. Just the way that the color is edited and everything, it's like the perfect. It almost looks like a punk album cover. Like from the 80s.
So looking back on like some of these pictures and you're seeing some of your OGs and people that helped you and like took you under and like showed you the ropes, and how does it feel to be that for people coming up now? Like for them to look at you with that same reverence and respect. How does that make you feel?
Feel like, you know how the OGs, the old heads say everything comes full circle. And I never really expected to be that guy. Honestly, I always thought it'd be Eric because when we were coming up, Eric Roy was the guy. This is the guy that I went to for advice. Trevor went to. He was the big homie. So I always thought that me being a more quiet guy and more introverted, I guess you'd say, and more withdrawn, I wouldn't blossom into being that mentor or OG type. It's not something I ever aspired to. There used to be a time I was incredibly selfish. And, it's just, you're young, you're full of yourself, you're arrogant. And I felt like these are trade secrets. I can't tell you how I do what I do. And you know, it's the crazy thoughts you have when you first break into the business, but you know, to become to others what Raz Monkey was to me, Kamikaze Kid, Lee Valiant, Joey Sylvia, Marcellus, all these guys, Mark James that gave me the game. Now I'm the guy. And it's when I look at all you guys that I had a small part of, and you know, whether that was just some inspirational words or match critique, and just seeing you all come into your own, it's crazy because when you look at it, you got a former world champion, you got Trey here, you got O'Shea, you got Timmy, you know, Robert Martyr, Jackson Drake, Malachi. It's just like I think that's my favorite part of what I've done. Is a lot of times I get hard on myself and I'm like, man, almost 17 years and you're where you're at. But then I look at it and I'm like, man, Obafemi is definitely wearing my beads, staring at me. Those are literally the same beads I gave Timmy. That's cool. Other people are offended by it, and me, I'm like, nah, that's dope. So to see your influence, even if you're not one of those ones, you know, for me, that makes you one of the ones, because if you can inspire the next generation, it really doesn't matter. Nothing else matters because you're inspiring greatness. So if that's what, you know, encapsulate my career, then I had a good run. There's a lot of guys, 50 milers that's been doing it for 25 years and they've never inspired anybody. But they'll tell you the one time they wrestled Ricky the Dragon Steamboat somewhere in Virginia, you know. But to see all you guys coming up and actually all of you have a very valid shot of making a lot of money in this business, it's very proud moment. Very proud.
And going back to the beads, what was your, I guess, like thought process? Were you planning on the beads being as big of a symbol as they are, or something as widespread as they are when you first started wearing them?
Nope. The impetus for the beads was I started wearing my shamag around my waist. Just something different. And Lee Valiant said, you know, stick with that. It's different. I got the mohawk. And then I remember starting to work for Steve Carino. And I was thinking, okay, I'm about to work for Carino. I need something that makes me stand out. You know, I'm West Indian, I'm Haitian. What can I do to look more, you know, just kind of stand out more? So I remember I was scrolling Etsy, just scrolling. I don't remember what I typed in. And I saw these very small, and it was called the Akuma necklace. Me again, I'm a video game mark. I remember being a kid playing, I think it was Street Fighter versus X-Men. And there was a secret hidden character that my cousin told me about. He was like, you know, if you go above Gambit's picture, there's a secret character. And I remember seeing this dude. He had darker skin, he had red hair, and he was just like the coolest video game character I've ever seen. So I'm seeing this necklace. I'm like, yo, these are like Akuma, the beads he wears. I'm going to get these. And I remember when Steve saw him, he was like, that's it. Keep that. That's a good look. And then over the years, the beads got bigger and bigger. Back then, that was the only size you could find. They were like really, really tiny. And then I wrestled O'Shea in Mississippi, and I had like the long mala beads that Buddhists use. And it was, I don't know what happened in that match that made me look at him and say, this guy's the future. So after the end of the match, we're in the locker room. I pulled the beads out of my bag, and I said, here, man. I said, I think you know what to do with these. Because he's into, you know, Japanese mythology and culture the same as me. And then me giving those to O'Shea kind of morphed into something. And then I gave a pair to, you know, Timmy. And then he started crying. And I had to walk away because to me, it's just a throwaway gesture. It's just me saying, I believe in you. And, you know, this is me saying that I admire what you're doing and me acknowledging what you're doing. But to these guys, it meant something to them. And after that, it became, I started getting messaged like, what do I need to do to get the beads? And I'm thinking, oh, if you go to Etsy and you type in a no, I want to get them like Timmy did. And I'm like, oh, you know what I did to Timmy for him to get those beads, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden I became the guy. Like I look up to Minoru Suzuki.
Yeah.
And, you know, Masawa, and I wrestled Eddie Kingston one time, and I had Josh Wheeler, who promotes AWE, was like, anytime you wrestle Eddie Kingston, it's like Kobachi versus Masawa. And then Eddie actually said those beads, they got to mean something sacred. He said, so you got to be careful who you give them to or who wears them. He was like, because it's almost like you're passing a piece of who you are to them. He said, so I'm not criticizing any decisions you made, but just be mindful that he said, it's something now. He said, I hear about it where I'm at. And that blew my mind. So I did not intend for it. It was just a throwaway idea to make myself stand out. And what I thought was a throwaway gesture here, O'Shea, here's some beads for you. And when I saw Timmy's reaction, that's when I knew, okay, this is something.
So what led to the decision? Because I know recently you gave the beats to Carly Bravo, and then you made a statement that the beats for you were done. How did you know that it was time?
Because I remember Carly said it was the intermission halftime show for AWE. He was the performer. He was a rapper. And I remember this dude in the ring rapping his heart out, and everybody's buying drinks. No one's really listening. And then the next time I saw that kid again, I'm like, oh, he's a wrestler now. And seeing Carly go from that to, I always saw it. Like, this guy's going to be a star. It's just it's his mind works, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. I didn't intend on giving him any beads. It was never like an itinerary, I got to give these to Carly. But I remember a memory, we wrestled at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo, and I shook his hand at the end of the match. And I remember him telling me, I'm going to get that picture and I'm going to frame it and I'm going to put it on my wall. And to me, I'm like, yo, he just trying to blow smoke, man. And he was like, no, I'm serious. He's like, that meant a lot to me. And he always called me Black Akuma. He was always like, you're our Akuma and you're this and you're that. And then he wrestled Trevor. Trevor's a guy I came up with. And then Trevor's leaving the ring. I looked at him and he gave me a nod. So, okay. And it was really an impromptu thing. And I see Carly, AEW, Trey'Von, he's about to be wherever he wants to be. O'Shea all over the place. Tim all over the place. So to me, Alex Kane is a former world champion. There's no need for me to wear them anymore. Like, my part in whatever this was that I created is done. There's vanguards who carry it. And if they carry it as far as they need to. But for me, I think I needed that to find who I was, because I didn't really know who I was until I picked those beads up. So now I know who I am. For me, I'm already me. So for a lot of kids or a lot of guys in wrestling, that's when they find out how tough they are, when they get those beads. I mean, so there's no reason for me to rock them ever again. It's got to end. So for me, my part in that is done. I gave the tribe to O'Shea. I told him to run with it.
So as somebody like Trey here that now has the beads, like, what advice do you have for him? Or is it more of like, you have been entrusted with this, do as like you please? Or are there like ways that you would advise or kind of like want to see him go?
Nah, he knows what it is. That's all I'll say about it. He knows what it is. I'm sure O'Shea told him. He probably got that talk from Tim.
Yeah.
He knows what it is. That's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say is what Scrap said to me. Keep your nose clean, for the world is yours. I hate when people make it seem like these things are inaccessible. They're not. Especially for kids like Trey, who has their mind in the right place. He's doing things the right way. A lot of guys start out and they don't do things the right way. So the world is yours. That's all I'll say. That's my part in when I entrust beads to people, that's what I tell them. The world is yours. And I mean that, because it is.
Thank you. Because you mentioned Minoru Suzuki. And it's crazy because, like, Minoru Suzuki is somebody that in the wrestling world, you say his name, but you kind of whisper it. Like, you're not like, oh, it's Minoru. It's like, oh, that's Minoru Suzuki. Joe Black is that for me, for people like me. Me and Jakami Henry, I was talking to him. looking at you as that's Joe, and that's something that's like it's not really a question. I'm just saying that's something that's pretty fucking cool to me. Is having somebody like that like you can look up to, but it's somebody that's got that reverence.
And that's always been crazy to me. Like I think maybe it's the curse of humility, but sometimes I see it and I'm just like, I will never see what you guys see. That's just, it's like Erykah Badu said, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. I'm my own worst critic. And Jakami is another one who, when he started messaging me, and I'm just like, I've never met this kid. I know he's a North Carolina kid. I know he pretty much is under the tutelage of some of my OGs. And to me, it's cool that, because when I look at him, I see a lot of myself back in the day. And it almost, at first, it kind of like freaked me out because I'm like, this dude talks like I do. He's even built like I used to be. And I watched his match, one of his matches to critique. And I'm like, man, he works the same way I used to. It's crazy. I think the world of that kid. The fact that I can have that reverence, that's all I ever wanted in wrestling was, respect. Because I remember one of the things Mark James taught me is you're not going to be given respect because you wear some boots. He's like, that's not how it works. You have to earn every bit of respect you get. And to have respect from, my peers, to have respect from my vets and, some guys that I grew up like watching on TV to get their respect. It's, like I said, I told Kenway this a couple weeks ago. If my career were to end this year, I'd have absolutely zero regrets because I did some cool shit, man. For real. And I inspired some cool ass people.
You mentioned that. I was re-listening to our last interview, which came out in November, like the end of November in 2023. And you spoke as if 2024 was the end for you. You said you don't know when you'll have your last match. Nobody will know except for you. You're still doing it now. What changed?
Yeah, 2024 was going to be it. And my plan was, I've always wanted, I'm not close with my family. I always wanted my own family. And so my goal was I was going to bow out, let these younger guys take the reins. And I was going to try to start me a family. But, life happens. And sometimes things kind of don't go the way you want them to. And because of that, that's the only reason I'm still around. It's, I feel like this is what I have. I have to focus on this. Like, obviously, my attention needs to be on this. And sometimes it sucks, but this is what I'm meant to do. And I got to do it until I'll know when it's the last moment. And maybe the family thing will happen for me one day. Right now, I'm here. I don't know when the run is going to end, but it ain't going to be anytime soon. Y'all are stuck with me.
I'm real happy to hear that. Well,
I'm ecstatic to fucking hear that. If you don't mind, give me 1 second. Just get out of frame here. There we go. All right, I feel comfortable now. There we go.
all right.
These things.
We always have one picture that we just end up talking about. Not the picture for forever, but the picture is still here. So we'll go on to the next one here, which
Dalton Castle. That is actually a Carino opportunity. It was me versus him versus Baron Black. And I remember Carino's like, you want to go to the show with me and Kobe? And I was like, sure. Why not? And I believe Vince Russo was there for some reason. Ron Simmons actually sat at the curtain and watched every match. Wasn't asked to. This is something he did. And at first I thought I'd be in some throwaway match. I think it was supposed to just be me and Baron Black. And then I guess Steve had told Dalton about me because he knew me when I introduced myself to him. He was like, I think you're the one Steve told me about. And then they put him in a match. And he's a big Peter Pan mark, the same way I am. And he named his move Bangarang, which was the name of the move I did back in the day. I remember there was a point in this match where I did this crazy Booker T up and over twist roll through, and then I struck his pose, and the crowd went insane. And I just remember him pointing his finger and said, "That's my pose." And I did my move, and I screamed out Bangarang, and he's like, "That's my move." And just to get his respect, and to this day, whenever I see Dalton, he remembers all of that. I was also, one of his backup boys. Steve told me to swallow my pride. And
Yeah.
he said, "Dalton needs you tonight." And I was like, "Am I wrestling?" He's like, "No." And I was like, "So what am I doing?" He said, need a boy." And it was me and Victor Andrews. This is compared Sabrina. I'm sorry, Vic, Mr. Everything. I had to.
Wish I would have known this last week.
I'm glad you didn't. Glad you didn't. And I'm pretty sure Moose was at that show, and Quinn just laughed at me. He walked by, he saw me in the get up, and he just started laughing. And I'm like, this is going to get back to Atlanta. I'm going to walk into A4 to train Kayla on Monday, and I'm going to get laughed at. Thanks, Moose. But, yeah, man, I love that dude. Dalton Caster's the truth.
Yeah. To jump back to an episode, because you mentioned A4, we had Jack Tatum on. He trained at A4. Do you have any strip club memories or hotel memories?
I know that my ex, she stayed in the hotel. It was behind the McDonald's. It was right around the corner. I think it was a Night's Inn. And she said there was a crackhead that would just run up and down the hallway. Like anytime they would, like, it'd always be like 11:30, 12 o'clock. And she would just hear this thundering down the hallway. And then there was one time she opened the door and brother was just rolling. He was barrel rolling down the hall. He was obviously having a good time on something. And then there were a couple of times when some strippers walked into the training area. For those who don't know, A4 used to be situated right behind Club Wax, which is still open. So there were some times where some strippers would walk in. A couple of times some ladies of the night walked in because it's right off of Fulton Industrial. If you don't know what that is, look it up. And yeah, that place, the most raggedy rings I've ever been in. This was the Curtis Hughes era. This is before Fox came in. I remember them doing pile driver drills, which makes no sense to me why you would have someone that doesn't know how to do a proper anything give somebody who doesn't know how to take a proper anything a pile driver. So, yeah, that whole thing was crazy. It was weird. Very weird.
I know a few of these you've talked about Steve Corino and how he's kind of helped you. How have the Corinos kind of like helped you in your path?
I remember the first interaction I had with Steve. I sent him a resume. Hey, kids, when we used to want to get booked somewhere, we used to have to send resumes like it was a job, because it was. So I typed out this resume, and it had where I wrestled for, who trained me, the years I worked. It had a couple of promo pictures, phone numbers for references, everything. And I emailed it to Steve, because I think Corey Hollis was like, here's his email, send him some stuff. And Steve was like, that was probably the best resume I've ever got. That was so professional. I got booked off the strength of a resume. I don't think he even watched my match. He was just impressed by the resume itself. So I came in, I wrestled JoJo Dancer. Steve wasn't there himself. Thomas Simpson was. And I remember Thomas called Steve, wherever he was at. It's like, this Joe Black guy. I'd known him from Smoky Mountain. I know him because of Kirby Mack and TJ Mack. This guy's, you got to book him. So Steve kept bringing me in. He made me the Shinjiro Otani openweight champion. I wrestled Hangman Page there, Jason Kincaid, and I remember one day I walked in and he said, "Hey, so how do you feel about wrestling Adam Cole?" And I just kind of stood there and looked at him, and I was waiting for the punchline. And he was like, "Do you want to wrestle Adam Cole?" I was like, "He's the Ring of Honor world champion. Why would I say no?" I think I wouldn't say I'm the only indie match that he had as his tenure, but I was one of the only indie matches that Adam Cole took as the world champion. And he said, "Look, you're going to go 30 minutes Broadway. Of course, you can't beat him, but I don't want him to beat you." And I was fully prepared to do the job in 10 minutes. I was just happy for the opportunity. So to have someone have that faith in me to say, "I'm going to put you in there with the world champion of Ring of Honor," which means at that time, he is the best wrestler in the world. And I trust you. But I don't want to diminish what you've done just because this is who he is. And because of that match, he introduced me to Kevin Kelly. And Kevin Kelly asked me, he said, "There's a camp in 2 weeks. Are you going to be there?" And at this point, I moved to Atlanta. I had no money. I couldn't afford to drive 11 hours. I just paid, first and second month's rent. Like, I was broke. And I looked at Steve and he just nodded at me. And I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." And Kevin Kelly said, "Don't bullshit me." And I said, "I will be there." And I just looked at Steve again and he just nodded at me and walked away. ROH camp used to be $350. I don't know if he paid that for me or if he just told them to waive it, but he got me in that door himself. And because of Steve, I got to wrestle for Ring of Honor and I got checks for it. I didn't just do dark matches and, get a pat on the back. He had Jay Lethal agenting my matches when we were there. I think me and Victor Andrews actually tagged against each other at one show in Florida that we were late for. Thanks, Vic. We were really late for that show. And Jay was like, "It's good to see you guys. You guys are kind of late." And Steve Carino, that's like I'm an honorary Carino. I always say that. I consider Kobe to be like a little brother to me. We used to sleep in the garage together when we stayed in Emerald Isle. And it's crazy. I love Steve Carino. I owe him that.
I love Steve. He's a great guy.
Victor Andrews, was that whole drive with like an 80-degree car?
Yes. I thought it was an isolated thing. Apparently it's not.
No.
Man.
I've been on a few car rides. I love him to death, but damn.
I love Vic too. And it's like I'm the type, if I'm a passenger, I'm not gonna complain. We're driving from Florida to North Carolina to Florida. I'm just thinking, man, what's going on? I'm just looking over at him. He seems comfortable. He's in a suit.
Oh, he's fine.
And I'm like, bro, he in Florida. Like, crazy.
I don't get hot.
Yeah, I'm from New York.
I don't get hot. I get cold,
it's
but 90
degrees outside though. I'm not hot. Okay.
I don't feel it. Let me stop at the gas station real quick, grab some cookies and milk before my match.
Bro. Oh my God. This food order. Need 5 egg whites. Make sure they're egg whites. If they're not egg whites, I'm gonna send them back. I want it exactly like this. And then he get his food, like survey it. I've never seen someone get their plate and just like carefully look and make sure the fluffiness of the eggs is what it needs to be. Looking at the cheese, he'd send it back because of some minuscule thing. And I'm like, man, Vic, that's crazy. I love Vic.
We had a loop we were supposed to run. We went from South Carolina down to Alabama. He was my first Alabama trip. Then we were supposed to go up to Rhode Island, but the Rhode Island one got canceled because it was right as COVID was hitting. But we get a hotel in between South Carolina and Alabama. We get there like 2:00 in the morning, and I snore. So I'm like, "Oh, I'll just get a separate room." He's like, "Nah, we're gonna get a room together." I was like, "Cool, that's fine, whatever." I snore, just letting you know. We go to bed at like 2:00 in the morning, and he goes to bed. And I wake up at 6, and he's just up and fully dressed. full suit and everything. I was like, bro, what did you do all night? He's like, I don't need
Accurate.
sleep.
I don't get cold. I don't get sleep. Man, yo, Vic he a raw one.
Oh,
For
yeah.
real. He's always ready. He is always ready.
Yes, sir.
Always suited up.
People ask me, like, why do you dress the way you do, Vic?
Vic.
Victor Andrews is why I wear a suit. Like, I
Exactly.
credit him because he did my finishing, my training. Like, so I credit all this stuff to Vic for helping me out with that. But I love him to death. That's a motherfucker.
Missed that brother, man. I ain't seen him in a minute.
Yeah.
He told a story the first time he was on here about the WrestleMania that he was at, where he was supposed to be used but didn't get used. So he was in catering, and he was talking about how his diet and like everything at there, like he wouldn't eat, so he had like just the most kiddie plate possible. And he sits down, and he said next thing he knows, the Undertaker and Kane just sit down right next to him, and he's got like a ham and cheese sandwich and
I can picture the scenario. This
but yeah, Victor's great. He helped us out from like the very beginning of this. He was one of our first ever guests, so definitely cannot thank him enough for that. It seems like he's done the same for you guys as well.
Oh, the title win. So this is the hierarchy. It's Murder 1. Adrian Armour is standing up. There's Slade Porter. This is when I beat Chip Day for the Georgia Wrestling Crown Championship. To me, that is the most meaningful title that I've ever held because it was held by Jimmy Rave. It was another guy who, like Steve, like Booker T and Tommy Dreamer, who just looked at me and saw something. And he said, I'm going to hone this. I was Jimmy Rave approved, which if you're from the South, if you're from Georgia, and you're Jimmy Rave approved, that's like a big stamp. Anthony Henry, Corey Hollis, Chip Day, Caleb Conley, Cedric Alexander. I'm pretty sure, Shane Strickland is Jimmy Rave approved. JD Drake. It's just a list of all the guys from my generation. And, that's just to say that, I stamped these guys. And winning that title is, I think, when I got that stamp. And I was Sub-Zero. We're at a gaming expo where I wrestled Trey at, same place. And I remember Chip came out, and he was Chip Day. And then he saw my outfit, and he was like, hold up, you're Sub-Zero? And I was like, we're at a gaming expo, dude. Why would I not dress up as a Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter or something? And I remember I came out, and the crowd had this, because I had the whole thing, like the character select screen set up that you hear, and it's Sub-Zero, and then I came out, and the crowd came up, and I'm thinking, I'm a heel. Perhaps I shouldn't have done this. That was a really cool night. And then after I won that, I put back on my Sub-Zero outfit. And Shotzi, shout out to Shotzi because she helped me situate it because I was confused with the kimono and everything. And I played Mortal Kombat 1 as Sub-Zero with the title belt. And I beat 10 people straight.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I think Huck was sitting there talking shit the whole time. I could beat him. All he does is just use the slide and the freeze. Yeah, that was a fun night.
This perfectly runs into it. I want to talk about your entrance gear over the years. Like, what are some of your favorites? I'll leave the floor open to you on this.
See, favorite is definitely Pyramid Head. I did that at Club Opera. I had, if anyone's played Silent Hill, it was two creepy nurses. They were sexy as fuck. They walked down the steps first, and I had some Silent Hill themed hip hop playing. And the lights were, there's a video, and you can see people taking pictures, and you just see me coming down the steps in every frame. And then I got a Silent Hill chant, which is probably the first and only in wrestling history. Trevor Eon, who I call Twin, he had this giant pyramid head apparatus that someone made him. And it was, I think I wrestled Caleb Conley and some other people that night. But that's my favorite. Winter Soldier is definitely a close second because I'm a big Bucky Barnes mark. The Wolverine, I did that against Huck. I want to say first. I didn't have the helmet, but he did World Breaker Hulk. He came out in the torn shorts and everything. He had like a little green half mask, and I came out in yellow in the vest like Wolverine. Ermac was cool. Broly was cool. Right now, what I'm doing, I guess you compare it to Craven. I guess I did it more as a Anubis dedication with the mask. So that's definitely pretty cool. But the voodoo thing, that's kind of like my transformation, if you will. You know, Undertaker's not riding the motorcycle anymore. He's dead again. That was my way of kind of conveying that because I'm a taker mark. So the voodoo thing is always cool. If I pull that out, it's a special match. And I've done the Joker at the Rumble Jack Labs here for Southern Honor. And yeah, thanks, Finn Balor. That's the reason I started doing it.
You have any exciting plan for this?
I do have one thing planned, and that one's probably going to be, I would have to make it a production. Like it would have to be a lot of moving parts just because this idea would probably be the biggest I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand, like the gimmick has always been the same if you know what Joe Black is. So it always had to be, that's the last thing though. So out of all the character interests I do, I have to do Joe Black. Some will get that. Most won't because I stole my name from somebody. If you know, you know. That'll probably be the very last thing I do. Look it up. You might find something.
I know because I have looked it up, and I'm like, got it.
That's where the name came from. That's where my name came from.
Oh, really?
Me, Joe Black. They said, think of a name. And I was like, Joseph Blackwell. That was my first name. And Brad Stutz was like, I came out, and I guess he didn't like the name. So he was like, you come into the ring, Joe Black. And I remember looking at him, and I remember saying to him, that's a Brad Pitt movie, bro. And then every poster that I saw, it no longer said Joseph Blackwell on it. It said Joe Black. And I remember telling one booker's like, yo, my name is Joseph Blackwell. And he was like, oh, well, Stutzy said your name is Joe Black. And me being a greenhorn, it stuck. And I hated it. For like the first 3 years of my career, I hated it. Because that's all people would say. That's a Brad Pitt movie, though. But now I'm kind of glad about it. It makes sense, I guess. It fits.
Is it a good Brad Pitt movie at least?
Yeah, it is. Actually, it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite Brad Pitt movie. You should watch it, because then you'll know what the last entrance is.
Oh yeah, I
Makes
think
sense.
I'll be doing that exactly afterwards. Trey, you're welcome to join me if you'd like. This kind of brings us up to speed with kind of the current times.
I wonder what match this was. I know Southern Honor. See Kenway, there's Murder. This might have been when I challenged Judas for the title. I see a dog collar chain.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be a match that I lost. Anytime they give me a microphone, it's either a really good idea or a really bad idea. The last time Southern Honor gave me a mic, I was cutting this heartfelt promo, and there was a fan in the crowd who decided to try to heckle me. And I always secretly wish for it because me and Murder One are master roasters. And I always secretly hope someone heckles me. And he did. He asked me, he said, where's your contract at? And I remember I snapped from my promo. And I said, I'm glad you asked me that. Who said that? Everybody in the crowd points at this one guy. And I just started, because I could tell by my body language in this picture, I'm roasting these shit. Because when I cut my promo, I'm very stoic. I'm very Roddy Piper when I get animated. I'm pointing at somebody. And I don't think I'm pointing at Judas. So, man, stop giving me microphones, y'all. I know I'm good at promos, but... And I think Murder handed me the mic. He was supposed to talk, and then he handed it to me. I was like, well, Here we go. About to get us canceled.
You have a favorite snapback that you've done all time to a fan?
There was a lady at Southern Honor. She said something racial towards me because it is Canton. Don't remember what it was. This is before murder came in, so it was just me. And I remember the first thing I said to her was like, "You're trying to tell me how to do my job. I don't come to your job and tell you where to stack the corn pops and the apple smacks. And I don't tell you, how to." I just started roasting her because she worked at a grocery store. And I know this because Gary Lamb, because she would always give me shit. I'm the baby face. So I never said anything to her. And Gary was like, "Yeah, she works at Aldi and da-da-da-da-da." And I remember that. And I'm thinking, ammo. So I just she started off flipping me the bird, and then eventually she just sat there and looked at me. And then she got her ass up and she walked out the door. And her kid didn't want to leave, and I felt so bad for him. It was fully into it. And then she came and yanked him out the building. And I was like, oh man, perhaps I went too far. But the crowd, every time I do it, you would think I just cut like the promo of the millennium. And I'm thinking, you guys should not be cheering this. Like the last show, the guy I roasted, they started chanting pussy at him. 300 people, kids included, chanting pussy at this guy. And I'm thinking, I didn't start this chant, but cool. I guess your kids are saying this. This is okay with you. All right.
And speaking of pussies, I think this next picture perfectly lines up.
Oh my God.
What the fuck?
Oh.
That was the best transition you've ever done. Jesus.
Knightdale, North Carolina. Joe Black makes his return to North Carolina to face the first and the most recent. Well, the first, the second, and the most recent. What does this match mean to you? Because I know when Tim got added, you put on Facebook that you've got words.
Well, at first, when it was a triple threat, I relished it. I've wrestled Trey before. I've never wrestled Trey'Von Ali, though. And I never wrestled a newly minted clan member, not the clan you guys are thinking of, Kaiju clan. And to me, I'm thinking, okay, so now he's a Kaiju clan guy. So now his metal's a little bit different. I get to test him now. And anytime I get in the ring with O'Shea, now I can test myself. So I always relish it. And it's back home, and I'm thinking, my mom might be here. Grandfather might come and check it out. I got to show out. And then they added Tim. Last time I was in the ring with Tim, he decided that after I whooped his ass, he was going to give me a low blow and steal my mask. The little tiger mask that he has. That belongs to me. He took it. It was not given to him. It was not gifted to him. It was not bequeathed upon him. He stole it. And that was my last interaction with him. So when I seen he was at it, at first I was a little pissed off because I'm thinking, okay, this is a triple threat. Now it's a four-way. What has Tim done to earn his way into this match besides being, a guy I gave some beads to? And so my words, I look forward to the challenge that I'm sure Trey'Von is going to present to me. And I'm eager to see what he's learned. I also look forward to the pain that O'Shea is going to put me through because he is the Kaiju and Tim. So I don't regret many things in life, but I'm starting to think I created a monster with you. And I know you're going to watch this because that's what you do. Your be wells and your meditations and all that other bullshit that you perpetuate. So I want you to listen to these words. The other two that I mentioned, I'm going to wrestle them. We're going to fight in the spirit of the tribe. But you, I'm going to have to exercise that demon in you because these things that you do, I didn't teach you that. I don't know if you picked them up on your travels. Maybe you learned them in Ohio. But this person that you are, that you turned into from North Carolina, it's almost like a menace. You're supposed to use your gifts to inspire and to challenge, not to take, instill. So, Tim, I'm not going to wrestle you. I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to try to destroy you. We're going to test the infinite name. We're going to test that. That's my words for Tim, specifically. But Trey'Von and O'Shea, I look forward to testing my might against yours. Timmy, I'm going to try to break every bone in your goddamn body. And I do it strictly from a place of love. Maybe. Perhaps. That's my words.
Oof. Trey, as somebody who is going to be involved with this match, how does that make you feel?
The heat ain't on me. Beat his ass. Because when we wrestled, I asked for five more minutes, and he ran away like a little bitch. So, by all means, whoop his ass. I think we're just going to try to figure out who's going to whip his ass more.
I think we're going to get voted out because O'Shea is impulsive. It's like all of you have qualities that I feel like I have, but when it comes to the intensity, O'Shea is Broly, and I ain't going to get in his way. I need to power up a bit first. So Broly going to do his thing, and me and Gohan here, we're going to do our thing over here. And then when Broly is done with Vegeta, then I'll piece him up. You know, because you ain't supposed to run. When they chant 5 more minutes, even if it's not sanctioned, it's just part of the tribe code. We always fight. And when it's asked for, it's ordained. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's on. And this, what's his new name? Aloysius? Alkaline?
Yeah. Alopecia Skipper something.
Yeah. That dude, like, I don't get it. It's going to be a great match.
Oh, for sure. You can get your tickets using the link below, wherever you're watching this or listening to this from. Other great matches: Mark James versus Jackson Drake, another member of the tribe, going against somebody who had a hand in making the tribe with Mark James. You've got Robert Martyr on the card, Jack Tatum's on the card, Brittany Jade, Amanda Kiss on the card. You're Alex Evans versus Alexander Moss. That was on your last episode. Those were the two names. It was Trey and Alexander Moss that you had the most to praise. So we're going to get to see him go against Alex Evans. And I honestly think that's probably Alex Evans' biggest test to date.
I'd say so. You said Robert Martyr?
Yeah, he'll be there.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a guy who he messaged me and he said that the series of matches I had with Chip Day in PWX is what made him take wrestling seriously. And then he used that and segued into, I've always wanted a pair of beads. So to me, I don't know if he really meant the whole thing about PWX and me and Chip, or if he's just trying to get, I don't know, maybe I'm jaded and I don't hand out beads anymore. There has to be a really special exception if I'm going to hand. I still have some, yes. I keep them on me. But I just found that weird. But I'm glad Robert Martyr is going to be there. He's been hounding me lately, and I don't understand that. But I'll see him, and we'll get to the bottom of that too.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a good way to play out of take the pictures here.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
I turn my camera on. I cut my fingers on the way. On the way.
All right. And we're back here at the final stretch. I feel like we've touched on a lot here. Trey, is there anything that you wanted to bring up or anything that we didn't get to touch on that you wanted to mention?
I've been through a lot of shit in these 8 years. It's not grand by any time, but I've lived 1,000 lives in those 8 years. And looking at that match card, looking at the people that I'm sharing the ring with, it's weird. It's really weird to me because like watching Joe when I was back in bumfuck North Carolina, watching O'Shea in Ring of Honor and MLW, Timmy Loretton, seeing these people and looking up to these people as idols, as people that I would one day want to meet, let alone wrestle. And that match card just fucking wild to me.
It's probably going to be the most important match I've had in 17 years. Definitely. I've always wrestled guys I looked up to, or, guys I just don't give a fuck about. We've always had those, but I've never wrestled a match that has 3 other guys who look at me like I'm this whatever it is that you guys see me as. I see myself as just the black cloud. That's me. I'm the killer weight. So this match is important because now I get to see firsthand, because you all have your own sections of this wrestling world. And now I get to kind of stand in all of your yard. I mean, I'm from North Carolina, sure, but O'Shea's been there a lot lately. Trey, you hold it down there, and Tim, he moved back. So it's like now I'm the stranger in my home, and I like shit like that. So this is the most important match I've had. If I can't stack up to the guys that I inspired or I influenced or that I mentored or trained in Tim, then that might be my answer for when this run needs to end. This is the ultimate test for me. You know what I mean? I mean, Trey'Von, you might be looking at it like this is a test for you. I'm sure O'Shea is looking at it as business, and Tim is looking, for an opportunity to run from the challenge. But for me, this is everything. I have to be that person you guys see me as. So I have to learn, and I'm going to teach myself in the next month or so how to see that guy. Because if that guy don't show up, I'm going to get my ass beat and embarrassed. So that's my challenge.
And that challenge is taking place on the 23rd of March in Knightdale, North Carolina. If you ever needed more of a reason to come to the show, I will let you know that there is a Bojangles within walking distance of this venue. You can go and get you a Bowberry and some chicken supremes at intermission and come back energized for the second half of the show.
Get you a Cajun filet biscuit.
Yeah. As a fan and a stoner, that is one of the best things a venue can have. So if you just needed more of a reason to be there, that is it.
There you go. For all you big backs, you heard it.
This is a big bag. What about North Carolina do you miss the most from like let's say maybe like a food or culture standpoint?
Sheets.
Oh yeah.
That's it. Everything else is migrated down here. There's a Bojangles down here now. There's some cookouts. Sheets. That place is heaven. I don't want to hear shit about Wawa. I've been there. I'm not impressed. Quick Trip is ass. Sheets. And
I think there's one close.
Oh
my! There's one close.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a Sheets close. What do you? Let's say you're post match going into a Sheets. What are you walking out with?
Probably the sampler with the chicken bites. That they have a Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce. I think they still have it. I hope they do. That they toss the chicken bites in, and then there's some cheese curds I always get. Me and Trevor Lee used to walk up there from Kazi's apartment with subs. Like, we would walk literally 45 minutes for these subs or a hot dog. So probably one of each of those. I'm going to grab everything that I can. It's like a set full of, we're just going to steal from North Carolina, just going to take cheer wine and go cook out. Nothing else good. There was a Miss Winters down here, too, that closed down. That was around the corner from A4. This place is not, it's not it when it comes to food. I remember someone compared Sheets to Quick Trip, and I wish I remember who it was so I could slap the shit out of him. Yeah, I'm not counting my macros that night
No.
at all.
Awesome. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic. I'm excited for this match. I know that you guys are all excited for this match. Yeah, looking forward to it. Get your tickets while you can. Trey, I'll leave the floor for you to end this thing however you see fit.
You keep putting this shit on me, Dan. Nah, March 23rd is about to be a very special, very important day for me. I earned these. I have to show that I deserve them. I still have to show that and prove that I deserve these against Joe, against O'Shea, and Timmy. But Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Dan, for
Yeah.
doing what you do.
Yeah, for sure thing. I this might be sacrilegious for you to do, but there has been a segment of the show since Trey has gotten the beads where he provides a little bit of ASMR for our listeners. So if you could play us out, please.
I got you. All right.
Who do you think you are? I am!
I warm it up like Kane in his prime. Fuck with us,